welcome to the Afro Girl Diaries channel. If you're new here, you're in the right place. I will link in the description box below my introductory series where I basically cover more about myself, my background, and what you can expect on this channel. So definitely have a look, watch, subscribe, like, share, just support and join the family. If you're returning, if this is the second, third time, fourth time you've been with us since the beginning, thank you very much. We're now on episode 5. We wouldn't have made it without your support, so thank you very much. So without further ado, today's episode is another episode of the Study Abroad series. So you may have heard about bridging courses. You may be wondering, why do I need one? Why is it important? So this episode is the right one for you. So most of the time, they're usually short, intensive courses that you usually do before you join a university. So it could be bridging between your high school education and what the university requires for you to enter into a scheme. Sometimes it's even for masters. So maybe the degree you've done is not recognized by the university you'd like to apply to. So they make you do a pathway, an entry pathway, before you begin the actual degree or postgraduate degree that you're about to do. So today I'll cover why maybe you may need a bridging course, examples of bridging courses that are available, and some pros and cons. And I'll draw from my experience because I have done a bridging course myself, and maybe from my experience what I found useful and some of the things which I'd say are disadvantages. So some of the reasons why you may need a bridging course is because you haven't met the entry requirements. This may be because you haven't met the grades. So most universities, depending especially on the level of university, like the ranking and how intense, or basically the level that they usually look for. So some universities, especially highly ranking universities, have very high entry requirements. Also, the course that you've selected, because of the type of course it is, it may require very high grades. So basically, if you've not met any of them and you're still intending on going to that university, because there are other options, maybe other lower ranking universities which would be willing to take you on. But if you're keen on going to those high-ranking universities, then you'd probably consider completing a bridging course. So that's one reason why you may need to do a bridging course. A second reason is that your home country, the system of education in your home country, is not compatible with the university that you're applying to. So this was the category I fell in. So I completed the 844. I passed it very well. But unfortunately, it's not recognized by many of highly ranking universities in the UK. So because of that, I still needed to do a bridging course. Also, the course I was applying for, engineering, they had very high entry requirements. Not that I hadn't met them, but basically, based on what they were asking for, I didn't have any of those certifications. So they were looking for A-levels. So basically the international qualifications, so things like A-levels, IB, I didn't have any of those. I had the Kenyan KCSE, my KCSE grades, which according to them did not meet their requirements. So I needed to do a bridging course. Another reason why you may need to do a bridging course is basically because in your home country, you haven't studied, or basically English is not an official language in your home country. So you may have gotten A stars, all A stars, based on that country that you've come from. But because you haven't studied in English as your primary language, you may be required to do a bridging course. So bridging courses are not meant to replace A-levels or IB or 2 years of basically college. They're just meant to bridge between what you have. So ideally, you should still have college level of education, but then you're bridging between that and what the university requires. So they tend to be very short, maybe 6 months, 9 months, sometimes a year. But most of them are not more than a year. Otherwise, it's not a bridging course. Then it's an actual course, maybe BTech. So those ones take a bit longer. But if you're doing a bridging course, it tends to be quite short. So examples of bridging courses that you can do. Most universities, especially the highly ranking ones, because they know they tend to be a hot spot for international students. So they usually know and anticipate that these people will need a foundation year, a bridging course. So most universities will actually offer a foundation year. So they may not call it a foundation year, they may call it entry level 1, or they may call it a certain level that's not year 1. So you graduate with something that's not necessarily year 1. It doesn't give you credits towards your degree. So those entry level pathways, I think the most popular way they call them is foundation year. That's an option. Another option is completing a foundation year or a bridging course at a partnering college. So some universities work with colleges or study centers, you'd call it, and basically they recognize. So maybe University of Manchester, because that's the option I took. University of Manchester recognizes NCUK. So I did NCUK. That's Northern Consortium of UK Universities. So this body usually offers pre-university education, you'd call it, which are basically bridging courses for international students who are looking to join universities in the UK. So it's an equivalent of an A-level but a crash course. So it's a 6-month long A-level crash course, and the UK universities that NCUK partners with all recognize this foundation year and are willing to take you on. So that's an example of a foundation course which is with a partnering study center or college. So you may be wondering, why would you not go to the university itself? Why would you go to a study center? And just to emphasize, this is not sponsored. I'm literally speaking from my experience. I really enjoyed my NCUK course. I did an international foundation year. So that's one of the preparatory courses that they have for university international students looking to go to universities. I think they offer other schemes as well. I'll put a link to their website and you can have a look. But I completed the international foundation year, and they literally, it's very similar to A-levels. So you choose 3 subjects that you're going to major in, and those 3 subjects are the ones you perform an exam in, and they determine what course you can get on. So I was intending to do engineering, so I did electronic engineering at the University of Manchester. So the subjects that I did in my bridging course, the international foundation year, were maths, further maths, and physics. So too much maths, but that's what you need when you're doing engineering. So depending on the course that you're doing, they basically help you choose the subjects that you should take on the bridging course. And it was a 6-month course at Brookhouse. So they didn't need me to come to the UK to do it. So those are some of the pros and cons. I'll just explain it in detail in a minute. But basically, study centers don't have to be in the country that you're intending to go to. So if I'm intending to study in the UK, I don't need to come to the UK to do a foundation year. You can do it in your home country at a partnering study center, and then come to the UK now to actually start your first year. So some benefits that come with that is that it's cheaper. So when you come to the UK, there is always that cost of, accommodation, flights, visa, like there's a lot of costs involved when you have to relocate from your home country to a different country. And of course, the tuition fees for international students is way higher than for home students. So another myth, you may think that bridging courses are only for international students. They're not. Also students who have done A-levels, either in that country or even, I know Kenya, people do international curriculum. So even though you've done those certifications that are recognized, sometimes because you've not met the grades, you need to do a bridging course. So people in the UK also do those foundation years, but their tuition fees is much lower. So as an international student, you may want to consider maybe cutting costs and studying at a study center near where you actually live. So you at least can stay at home, you can cut costs like that instead of paying for accommodation. So as I'd mentioned, I've done the engineering foundation year, and that was 6 months at Brookhouse, which is a study center that partners with NCUK. And a benefit of that is you actually get a guaranteed place. As long as you've met the entry requirements to do that bridging course. So they don't just take anyone. Unfortunately, they don't just take anyone. But because NCUK partners with, at that time it was 11 universities. Right now, I'm sure they have increased. I'll check on their website. I'll basically put a link to their website. But at that time, they were working with a lot of universities in the northwest of the UK. So that's University of Leeds, University of Manchester, University of Sheffield, Bradford, Liverpool. So there were quite a number. There were 11 of them. And I'm sure right now, that was in 7 years ago. I'm sure they've partnered with a lot more universities now. You can have a look on their website. But some of the benefits of these bridging courses is they guarantee you a place in the university. As long as you follow that scheme and you meet a certain minimum grade requirements, they guarantee you a place in the university, which is something, you know, you don't want to go through that whole 6-month course additional, which is additional because some people just do high school and they're able to qualify. You don't want to spend that time, invest that much effort and not still get a place at the university. So you get a guaranteed place depending on at least you meeting some minimum grade requirements, which are usually much lower than people who have to do A levels and IB. Another thing, during my experience at Brookhouse, I actually won a £5,000 cash prize. I didn't know that they were giving cash prizes. We just did my intake. We just did the normal, you know, IFY. It's called IFY, the initials for International Foundation Year. We just did them, did our best. You know, I managed to pass it, we thank God. I actually got all A stars. And when I was at Manchester in my first year, I remember I got an email, a random email. I actually thought it was spam email, just telling me you've been awarded, we wanted to award you £5,000 from NCUK for your academic achievement in the International Foundation Year. And I remember I was so surprised because they never told us that, oh, there's this annual award ceremony and they usually recognize the high performers from the NCUK program. So if you're looking for incentive, not that you would do a bridging course just to get a cash prize, but I got a cash prize. £5,000 is a lot, trust me. When you're studying abroad and then you get £5,000, that will help you. That will take you a long way. Yeah. So just moving on, as we mentioned, most bridging courses are either offered by the university itself or a partnering study center. So depending on the pros and cons, you know, and your circumstances, you can choose between the two. But some of the pros, as I'd mentioned, is guaranteed entry depending on the scheme you enter. If you're entering one for University of Manchester, which has its own foundation courses, they normally would take you on. They usually reserve some spots for people in foundation year, but it's not like you go on it and you fail and you know you'll still get a place. You need to meet some minimum requirements, but they're usually much lower than someone who is being taken from A levels or IB. Another thing is it gives you a good foundation for uni. I remember I did further maths, and that what we covered, I genuinely didn't need to attend lessons for the whole of past year for engineering maths. So engineering maths was one of my modules, and what I covered in further maths was enough to take me the whole first year without needing to go to classes. Not that that should be approach that you take, but that just gives you an idea of what you cover in that course. It's very, very intense, and it genuinely gives you an idea and an introduction to uni. So if you're Kenyan, you know how the 844 system is. It tends to be a lot of spoon feeding, a lot of cramming, and less application. But university is completely different. It's all about coursework. It's all about less about stating theories and facts, but more about applying the principles to actual scenarios. And that can be quite a big culture shock to people who are used to, you know, just cramming, especially when you're from 844. So these bridging courses tend to mimic your life in uni. Even how the classes are set up tend to mimic how uni will be, you know, actual lectures, actual coursework. So it gives you the right preparation for when you go to uni, and you don't have to go through that whole culture shock of how uni actually works. Another thing, maybe just to raise some cons to end this video so that it's not too long. Unfortunately, everything has a downside, and the main downside for bridging courses is just cost. So not many, unfortunately, where we are right now, even in 2020, not many places offer, you know, these bridging courses. It tends to be very, very few study centers that partner with these universities. So because of that, because they're very niche, they tend to be quite costly, which is why you may want to prefer a study center in your home country as opposed to coming all the way to the UK and including the cost of being international into the whole cost of the bridging course. Because if you think about it, you still need to pay for uni. Uni by itself is so expensive. It is literally very expensive. I think we're allowed to state figures. So when I did my degree, the tuition fees was £17,000 per year. That's not without accommodation, transport, you need to eat. Oh, it's expensive. So imagine on top of that, you need to do a bridging course as well. But that's where now, of course, if you want to study abroad and it's mandatory because what you've done is not eligible, then that's why you just try to see which route makes sense. Should I go directly to the uni and then still have to relocate to the UK, or do I study from my country? So of course I'm a bit biased, but the truth is it does make sense cost-wise to do it from your own home country at an eligible study center. Another thing is time. I remember I finished KCSE today. Next week I'm starting this course, which you know how, especially how stressful KCSE is. You know, your high school exams are very stressful, and then a week later you're starting. So it's not ideal when your friends are just, you know, enjoying themselves and you're still doing a crash course in between, and it's quite intense. But it's a case of, you know, are you going to work towards your goals? Are you going to let go of them for, you know, short-term pleasure? So if you think of the big picture, then the time element shouldn't be a big problem. But the truth is, it does take some time, especially the route that you choose. So if you choose the university one, it tends to take a whole year, so it's a full 12-month course. If you take other ones, they're crash courses. So you need to check, you need to compare them. See how much does this one cost? How much time does it actually take? Because that matters. You don't want to miss the entry when everyone else is going in. If people are going in September, you don't want to go a year after just because your foundation course runs over by 3 months. So those are some of the things you need to consider. The last one is some bridging courses are not recognized by some universities. So you could do a bridging course and it only partners with 2 unis. So you've done a whole 6 months, but only 2 unis recognize it. All the others still require you to do a foundation course. So those are some of the research you need to do. You need to check this foundation course, how many unis recognize it? Because you want to have options. You don't want to just be stuck with one uni and then you don't meet the grade requirements, and then that's it, you're back to square one and you need to do another foundation course. So try and go for the more generic ones, the ones recognized by many unis. NCUK, for example, is recognized by 11 in 2012 actually. Hey, I'm old. It was 11 at that time. If I actually check on their website now, so I'm just on their website, and they actually partner with, hey, they're quite a number now. They've added Birmingham, they've added Kent. Yes, so they've actually increased. There were not this many when I was doing it. At that time, I think there were only 11, and they were specifically Northwest unis, but now they've clearly extended to other parts of the UK. But yeah, if you want to do an actual foundation course, you want to do it with a study partner that has many partnering unis. You don't want one that just, you know, does it specifically for University of Kent and no other uni in the UK recognizes it. It wouldn't be worthwhile. That's all for today. Next time I'll cover the remaining process of the study abroad series. So, you know, you want to study, you've chosen your country, you've chosen your uni, and now you've chosen your bridging course. So what next? Stick around to find out. Till next time.